The Six Nations is done and dusted, and wow, just what do you say? Wow, the superest of the Super Saturdays is in the bag. Was this the greatest tournament that we have ever seen? Not just in the Six Nations, but in rugby, full stop, or sports, full stop. We're going to be talking about all of it and more, maybe, in this week's episode of the Six Nations Rewind. Let's start the show. I am joined by Irish Adam and Scottish Ethan. Good evening, gents.
Good evening.
I am, for the sakes of this podcast, Welsh Hugh. This is the Celtic conspiracy of a podcast where we laugh at England's no matter how they lose. And we talk about
Mm,
the rugby. Adam's divided on that
not good.
opinion.
I, um, whatever other France lost. Did I jump up at an England try? Guilty.
Oh, there's no coming
But
back from that. There's no coming back from
no,
celebrating an England
I just
try.
but the thing is though, we could have won a trophy, and it was just so
You won a
conflicting in my
trophy.
head.
You won a plate. That's a trophy.
We won a plate. We won the Triple Crown. And also, to be fair, I didn't want to win a replica of the Six Nations. I think that's what the lads were thinking anyway. So I just yeah, it was a confusing Saturday for me.
So, someone said that the latest allegation is the Six Nations trophy set fire to itself at the thought of being lifted by a Scottish player. But fortunately, that eventuality was avoided. Anyway, right, let's get talking about the rugby. I'm going to break with tradition. Normally, we go in chronological order, but this week I am going with madness order, most mad to least mad. France versus England. Just lads, talk me through your experience of watching this glory slash shit show that we had on Saturday night.
Oh, I was bedbound yesterday with the flu. So my Super Saturday was spent sleeping and watching rugby, and I thought the flu medication was playing up on me watching this game because there was parts of this game where I thought, no, surely like because I wanted France to lose, and I thought this would have been the funniest thing ever if England were to win. I just thought to me like there was points of this game where I was like, this can't be happening. This isn't real life. LBB scoring 4 tries was it? Ben Earl got substituted 17 times. It looked like from the website.
He's off on 37, back on 40, off on 43, back on 51, off on 75.
They call him Iron Man for a reason. But yeah, it was one of those games where I just could not believe what I was watching. Like every single thing, like this was madder than, and I can't believe I'm saying this, than 55-33 a couple of years ago.
It
When
was.
it was what Lee Crunch had to be. It had kit clashes. It had that light blue t-shirt. It had
Yeah.
DuPont playing a fairly like mid-level game for how well everything else went. LBB scoring 4 tries, which is the first time a French player's done that since World War II. Like that was something that was said on commentary. It was also the game that broke the record for the most tries ever scored in a tournament of 108, which the commentator said at the game, surely that's going to get beaten. And I was like, surely not. But then England started to reply with, like, this is the one England player I'm going to call out. Ollie Chesham, why did you not run into the sticks? Him intercepting the ball and having the slowest intercepts. I don't know why at the minute I love speaking about low, like really slow intercepts, but the fact that Chesham scored an intercept running that slow, it's up there with Dan Lancaster and the acceleration that he's shown. But my goodness, this was mad.
Maddest game I've ever seen. I've been in shock watching France 2 weeks in a row. And this what I was just what am I watching? I think I said out loud to myself in a room with no one else in it. What am I watching here? Eventually the missus did join me to watch it. And again, like I did a couple of weeks ago, I nudged her and said, you won't see many more games like that in your life. And she said, that's nice, dear. So there you go. But absolutely mental, Ethan. What did you make of it? What a way to spend a Saturday night.
Yep, I had to explain Louis BRA to my mum in that this man's now got more tries and caps, and he's only 22, which is insane. And it was just the fact they just had to kick the ball. He would just catch it and score.
It, it's just
It,
mad. Every time France kicked the ball, I was like, no! Like, it was just like every single time because he just does something stupid every single time. He broke his own record. He broke his
yeah,
own record
it's
as
one of
well.
those like the Six Nations try scoring record has been broken by Louis Bielbiret, a record previously held by Louis Bielbiret, and you see one of those pictures of him shaking his own hand. Like he scored for 10 Six Nations games in a row, and he scored 10 tries, or was it 9 tries in one Six Nations? What? Like to say that nobody else has ever done that before feels like an understatement at this point. Like you talk about goat behavior. Two players for me exhibited goat behavior in this game. You talk about in the big matches, the great players exert their will on the game. 4 tries in one Six Nations game. And then Tomo Ramos. I was genuinely
Oh,
thinking about this earlier, and this thought popped into my head. I thought like Tomo Ramos was so relaxed kicking that last penalty, it was like he was mowing the lawn. And I thought, no, I've definitely been really stressed out mowing the lawn in my garden. Tomo Ramos looked easier than that. I think I've had more difficult hoovering of the living room than he has kicking that kick. I'll see if I can find it. Like he
it,
celebrates as
it
soon
was
as it leaves the tee. He goes,
it was
"Oh, yeah, that's over." Like,
it was the water. It was the guy bringing on the kicking tee going like that before he even kicked it, and I was like, everyone in the rugby world knows that he's gonna make it. Everyone does. I was just sort of like, even though like it was just that was just a celebration, but I was just like, imagine if that didn't go over. But Ramos is that good that he's just a slot machine.
but you
Like
had
he's
the shot
incredible.
from right behind him on the TV. The shot you saw from right behind him, and you saw it go up off the tee. You're like, "Oh yeah, it's over." Like, and it's the fact that he had two penalties to choose from. He had one that was a bit further out, but in the middle, and they had one over on the left. He took the one on the left. And I was like, that's the harder kick, isn't it? Take the one in the middle. He was like, no, slot it from here. Can we move it? Can we go a bit further left? Make it a bit harder, make it interesting for me.
I did think that like place kicking did a lot in this game as well. I think England missed a lot of
Three. They
kicks.
missed three.
They missed three kicks, and that could have been the difference of Ireland winning a trophy, guys. Never watching the Prem again. Didn't really watch much of it anyway. But I must say, something that was quite cool was Finn Smith's little drop off the tee. Here's a quick
That
little
was
drop
cool.
goal. That was pretty cool. But look at how
Look at this.
elegantly he does it.
Yeah,
There's
easy
something
lads. Don't worry about it.
there's something so like purely French about that reaction as well. Just like a
He
yes.
shrugged. He shrugged.
But I think fair play to France. Like they did it in style. They did it with like French flair, but they also did it with like they are France and they could concede 40 points and still win. Um, but I think it also brings up like a question of Sean Edwards' defense because that's what 90 odd points that they've shuffled in the last two games.
It is, although he did say, I don't know if you saw this on the TV, he did an interview and the comments and they interviewed him and then the interview went, thanks, Sean, have a nice night. And then Sean went, that's seven for me, by the way. Seven
Yeah.
titles for me. And he's factually correct.
Yeah, he there was it was the French center when they lifted the trophy. You could just see him going like that to him. Like seven and what oh no trois cutscene set Six Nations. But yeah, fair play to him. But I just thought there was nothing that France like bar like some defensive errors and some like questionable passes. They capitalized on the Elish Genge yellow card well. However, England could like score a try as well after that. But my goodness, like they know how to keep me like on the edge of my seat for like the whole game and being in that delirium when was it Cunningham South scored and I thought 2 minutes, then Henry Pollock getting the ball, then proceeding to hand the ball back. Like there's a lot to be said. Like there was a moment when I think it was when Cunningham South scored, or was the last England try, and you saw Pollock do that, and I was like, well, there's our Six Nations hopes gone because something
Can I say
stupid's
something
gonna happen there.
controversial? I like Henry Pollock. It's thing is, one of the many reasons that I hate England is that they think that the sun shines out of their ass. So to see an English rugby player who's like, I'm a dick and I really am going to lean into it, I'm like, my guy,
Well,
like you get it, you get it.
what was it? The only time I've ever seen something positive put on about Pollock was when it cut to him about to come on and the French booed him. And the Interpro show was all like, "Go on, Pollock, you bastard!" like,
And
like,
he was basically like, yeah, come on, boo me.
yeah,
Rugby needs that. What
but
I think that's
he,
awesome. I'm not sorry for like
he's
anyway. I've found the drop goal conversion from Finn. We might get a
also,
copyright strike for this, but let's risk it.
is this the game where Finn Smith proves himself as England's 10?
He
This is
proved
one
it
that I
last
thought,
Six Nations for me. This is my thing. Welcome back to Borthwick bashing with Global Gainline. Um, Finn Smith was the guy. He proved it last Six Nations, but they went to Argentina and they beat Argentina. Everything. Get this in your heads, people. Everything goes back to the Argentina tour last year for England. When they went away to Argentina, they won two tests. Every decision that Borthwick has made since then relates back to those test series, and that includes bringing back George Ford. Finn Smith came into the last Six Nations, and immediately made England better. And then he got picked by the Lions. Andy Farrell took one look at it and was like, "No, not that into you, sorry," and picked Finn Russell. And to be fair, I do think that Finn Russell is a better player than Finn Smith. I'm not saying that Finn Smith is bad. I'm saying that Finn Russell is even gooder.
generational.
And and Steve Borthwick was like, "Oh, George Ford, we won a couple of games with him in 10, so we'll keep him." And Finn Smith is the present and the future for England, and I don't mind saying that. Also, I have, in searching for this Finn Smith clip, found not only a clip of Tomo Ramos nailing the last conversion. This was posted by the France account, by the way, France rugby official account. Not only Tomo Ramos nailing the last kick, but also the England players looking absolutely fucking gutted after it goes over. So look at this kick. Look at this kick. It's over from the moment he strikes it, and then it cuts. It cuts to the England players. Like, oh, Ben Earl, I'm really sorry, mate. Never mind. Always next year. What a conclusion. That was literally the last action. That was literally
Wait,
the last action of the Six Nations 2026. I
I
mean, you know, one could argue that as the podcast host, I should leave this until the end of the podcast to ask, but was this the best Six Nations there has ever been?
yes,
Yep.
100%. I think what was it? Someone said on a group chat that it was like two or three games that actually went to script, but the rest of it was sort of just like filtered down into a you can win this or you cannot, and there's no in between. When you think about how well Italy played, when you think about how well Scotland played, Wales getting that like, well, we're gonna speak about it. The fairy tale at the end, the curse is broken, is it? England having that sort of all right start and then sort of fading out and then coming back again. I think for game's sake, pound for pound, this week and last week was probably the best Six Nations like 2 week turnaround that we've ever seen.
Thoughts, Ethan?
Yeah, no, I'd agree in that obviously the result that I'll be commenting on later was disappointing, but it was a bit of everyone could take something from this year positively, 2 stars and a wish, as the good old teaching language goes. But I know it's quite funny in that England we always everyone gets accused of everyone just getting ready for England, but it seems like England only gets ready for France. There's
It's not a
apparently
bad
it
shout.
was
Not a bad shout.
yeah, it was so something like over the last was it the last 5 games between them that there's only been like three or so points
Yeah,
between.
lost by two in 24, won by one in 25, lost by two in 26. So
Yeah,
I think that maths. Yeah,
yeah,
that's three. Yeah, there you go.
yeah, which is really weird because you thought France, just from the pure styles how they play, that France should just be walking around England.
This is my thing, and I'll stand by this, and I'll say it to anybody's face. Absolutely, on no level do I believe that Steve Borthwick has walked into England training on Monday morning, gone, lads, I reckon the game plan's not been working, but it's fine. I've got a new plan. Here's what we do. No way. I reckon the players have gone, Steve, stick your plan. We're just going to go out there and duet. And it was chaos. This game was absolute chaos. I'm going to be honest. Sorry, this isn't popular to say this kind of thing, but I thought that Nika really struggled in the middle. I thought that the referee had a poor game, really didn't control proceedings. I think one of the people who should be happiest about this game is Holly Davidson on the touchline, thinking, oh, I'm definitely refereeing a semi-final at the Men's World Cup, because if this is the standard of the people that I got to compete against, anyway, I'm being horrible. But I think that played into England's hands. England dominated the game line. I think their last try, it was a goal line dropout from France, and England went from the halfway phase try, and that was massively impressive. Thank God France kicked that. That's all I can say. And I would say anybody thinking like, "Oh, England, we're back." No, you're not. The check Wikipedia in 5 years. This was England's worst ever Six Nations in history. 4 losses from 5. I don't care what the manner of them was. That's what the history books will say. So there you go. Any final thoughts on again? My final thoughts on France is, if anybody's in doubt about whether the best team won the championship, France's attacking stats are an absolute fucking joke in this Six Nations. They are so far clear from an attacking point of view. The defense, let's not talk about that. Do you see how many strays that Super Rugby was catching this weekend, by the way? Like, Adam,
Yeah.
you're wearing your Super Rugby shirt. Like, they were asking, like, Sean Edwards, like, just normally, just like, this is what us as rugby fans are supposed to say on, like, our shitty podcasts. But, like, on ITV, the interviewer was saying, sure, that was like Super Rugby. Fuck's going on, lad? And he was like, yeah, it was like Super Rugby. Shit, sure. Like, Super Rugby's, like, down south going, was it
I,
our fault? Don't drag us into this.
you could say that the global gain line, we could be pundits in the Nations League. Is that the standard? We could be. If we can bash Super Rugby, no offense Super Rugby, we could for defensive reasons.
A
But it
great
was
result for
very
the Drua this weekend.
very good result for the Zero. My Merseyside team.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, big Liverpool team now. Um, but yeah, it's one of those where, like, when you get like, well, to be fair, I do like when journalists and commentators and also coaches buy into something, and that Super Rugby comment at the end was quite funny though, wasn't it? Because it was very Super Rugby. Like, you can like whack in as 2 Super Rugby teams with that scoreline and the exact same, even with the 4 tries scoring, and being like, yeah, that was Highlanders v Blues on the weekend. Like, you could quite easily say that.
Opta posted, France have never scored more tries in a Six Nations or conceded more tries in a Six Nations
Oh,
in the
it's
2026.
I I rate a team that could just go out and score. We don't care about the defense. Go out and score. But it won't. I don't think it would cut it necessarily in the southern hemisphere in the long term, especially in the Nations Championship. That this I call me quite confused, but I'm quite excited for this Nations Championship in the summer, considering everything that's gone on in the Six Nations, just to see a little comparison before the World Cup.
I think one of the happiest people watching this Six Nations will have been Razzie Erasmus. I reckon he sat at home with a brandy and coke and a biltong. I'm told they don't come in packets down in South Africa, but whatever they come in, and he'll have been gone, we are going to smash every single one of these. And I believe him. Anyway, let's move. Oh, wait, no. Oh, I forgot to do this in the other podcast that we definitely recorded after this because YouTube magic. But if you are enjoying the show so far, please consider subscribing to the Global Gain Line. go-to place for rugby all around the world. It's not just a Six Nations podcast. We have a URC podcast coming out to you after this. We have a USA special podcast previewing the MLR, talking about sevens. Do you like sevens? Well, you need to watch the Global Gain Lines USA Mall Street Journal podcast, it's called. There's a specialist Irish show. There's a specialist South African show. There is a women's rugby podcast, and there is a French rugby podcast that I host on Tuesday nights. You'll want to listen to all of them this week, I'm telling you. It's going to be absolute scenes. So it's a bit of rugby from a bit of everywhere. And if that sounds like a bit of you, please consider subscribing to the Global Gain Line. All right, lads, continuing on, I have decided executively that we are now going to talk about Wales versus Italy. I'm happy about this one. I had forgotten what it felt like to be happy about Wales. Even when we beat Japan in the autumn, we played shit. And so I was still predominantly very angry after that game. But no, we beat them. And I'm happy about it. To avoid the scenario where it's just me talking endlessly, Ethan, what did you make of this game?
I feel like it's at least Scotland era now, in that they can beat England and get that big result, and just now need to back it up against the next team. Yeah, they're welcome to our world, Italy.
That's a great analogy. I love it.
We managed to get past it this year, but yeah, they just look tired.
I
They
have a
just
stat on that. I shall come to it later, but keep talking.
Yeah, like Italy just looked completely lethargic, and I think it is. I don't think they've really rotated, apart from getting players back from injury or like personal reasons and stuff. I don't think they've actually, like, you can see every other team broadly rotating to an extent, but yeah, they just looked completely knackered. And it was good for Wales in that Wales were completely up for it. They deserved the win. It was kind of a shame that, was it 31 nil about half time, and it all just went a bit
Just
downhill.
after, yeah.
Yeah, which is a bit of a shame because I was hoping for the result that if Wales ate into their points difference enough, and France were supposed to do it well against
It
England.
was on for a second. It
Yeah,
was on for a minute there.
yeah, that England would have came last, but there's always next year. But yeah, no, that was it. Dan Edwards, yeah, for the fly half. That he
Yes,
looked very comfortable.
he grew into the game. I'm
Yeah,
so conscious of being called a hater, but I think he got, as the game went on, especially after he scored his try, his mentality completely changed in a good way.
yeah, and I know. I think Italy. I don't know. I'd say you'd want them to have gotten that result for their best Six Nations ever, but I
Yeah.
didn't think they deserved it in this game. But I think the
No,
better team did win.
I I I fully agree. Adam, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Ethan. I think um what was it? It was like almost after last week, and the stat on Dad Edwards only touching the ball something stupid, like was it two times or something stupid like that, when
Three times in 40 minutes.
th three times in 40 minutes. I was sort of like counting how many times he touched the ball, and he touched it much more than much more than last week. I felt like that really opened up the Wales game plan more. I also thought that um you've got the likes of like Wales do have, like, I think they proved it there. Like, they've got a really good team. I think Wainwright had a really good game. He's only young, isn't he? Like, the only way is up for him. You have the likes of Thomas Williams, which played a really good game as well.
He's 28. He's not
Um,
that young.
20. Yeah. So, well, you're having these players like hit a good time just before a World Cup as well. You've got the likes of Dan Edwards, who I thought had a pretty good game as well. Um, I was a bit disappointed by Italy, especially in the first half. As Ethan sort of mentioned, like, they did look tired. That all the focus was on Menincello, and Menincello didn't really do as
In
much
the
as you
final
would have
20,
thought.
he was pretty darn good.
He was pretty good in the final 20, but he was fairly absent most of that first half, right up until then. Um, it was funny seeing like Tommaso Allen is one of those players that I'm like to point because I knew he scored a try, but how old is Tommaso Allen and does he ever age? Like I feel like Tommaso Allen's been around for 15 odd years. Like I feel like he's just always sort of there. Um I did think that
Who was the
Fusco.
Italy fly half? The one who was actually Australian, Chris something. I want to say Chris Gunter, but that's wrong.
Oh, that's a good question. Because I was thinking like Italian fly halves. I'm like Ian McGinley, the Irish one. There was also um I'm trying to think because Tommaso Allen's Scottish, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah, Tommaso Allen's Scottish. So I'm not
Chris
sure. I'm not sure.
Burton.
Chris Burton. I thought Fusco for Italy had a pretty good game, but I didn't really get anything motoring. As I said, I think tiredness just over prevailed, but I thought that Dewey Lake had a really good game as well. I thought he did relatively nothing wrong. I thought that Wales backed up a good defensive performance against the other two teams, like in the last two rounds, with actually scoring tries, which must have been a nice change for you, Hugh.
Oh yeah.
And they sort of let it slip towards the end, but it's a great win for Wales, and I think that does really well for mentality more than anything else. Is they've actually got the win now. It's where they can go from here, and getting that win. It is a big win because Italy have been playing excessively well, and Ethan, I think you're completely right in saying they now fit that Scottish mold of they're due big wins. It's just how they follow up the games, but. Yeah, fair play to Wales. I think they had a quite good game.
Yeah, I'm really happy, as you can imagine. It's I I wish I'd have tweeted it or something so that I had receipts to prove it, but I'm not surprised that when the dam broke, we won by a lot. I had the feeling that that was going to happen, that if we got two scores ahead, it would just snowball and we would, because that's just how it kind of goes when. And cause I thought that, to be fair to him, Gonzalo Casada summed it up absolutely perfectly because he said Italy had three tries ruled out by the TMO in this game, or one way or another. And he said they were all correct calls. He's got no problem with the calls. And he said it comes down, when it gets to that level, it comes down to centimeters. And when it's coming down to centimeters, it's about who wants it more. And he said the Wales wanted it more. And 100% he's absolutely spot on. That's the perfect way to sum it up. And this was our cup final. People can check out on my YouTube channel. I've done a deep dive on Italy today, and I did a lot of research on them over the last 2 weeks. And what I learned from that research is that Italy have got a good defense, despite what this game says, a good scrum, a very good scrum, and Tommaso Menoncello. Other than that, those three things, they're a limited team. There's not much to them, frankly. And so I was like, Jesus Christ, Wales. If you can't beat a team that's got three good things about them, we've got a serious problem. And like that some people have called it the Latin temperament. I don't know if that's racist, but um, it's obviously Italy beat England last week, and now emotionally they're just over that hill just a little bit, whereas Wales have been going up that hill. And look, the bar for Wales started on the floor this Six Nations. The last game before the Six Nations was 73-0 at home to the Springboks. And then they got one of the worst performances the Six Nations has ever seen in the first game against England. But steadily from there, they've improved every week. And I think that's you have to credit Steve Tandy for that, because he can say, the longer I've had them in camp, the better they've gotten. So you have to give him his props. The starting 15 was unchanged this game to the last. So there's cohesion there. There's still an open question mark about whether that starting 15, the coaches arrived at it on purpose or by accident. I think in some positions it is by accident, but they've gotten there. And it just worked. I think that Joe Hawkins had his best game for Wales, and I think that him stepping up and performing to the level that's required made it a lot easier for Dan Edwards, because Dan Edwards plays his best rugby when standing at second receiver, not first. So by Joe Hawkins stepping up at first receiver, it got the best out of Dan Edwards. Obviously, Eddie James, seeing him grow as a Scarlets fan, I'm super happy. Hawkins, Eddie James, Scarlet centres, Ellis Me as well on that subject. A player who I think has gotten Not enough praise for this game, in my opinion, is Josh Adams. I thought having watched the game back again this morning, I thought Josh Adams was absolutely out of this world. Form is temporary, class is permanent. Josh Adams is a world class rugby player, and I really enjoyed watching him in this game. Um, and Aaron Wainwright, what can you say? Best number 8 in the Six Nations. The first try that he scored, he had absolutely no right to score that try. And something that's been noted not only by me, but loads of people with Welsh rugby players at age grades, at the regions, whatever you want, is that Welsh rugby players run into contact and they go to ground. As soon as they feel contact, they go to ground. And Aaron Wainwright, for his first try, said, I'm going through contact. I'm going to hit contact and my legs are not going to stop pumping. And he went through, he had no right to go through those two Italian forwards. It's not like he ran at the fly half. It's not like he ran at the scrum half. He ran at two front row forwards and smashed through both of them. Amazing. Best number 8 in the Six Nations. What a player. What a player. Um, I'm happy. I'm happy for Dewey Lake as captain that he gets to do a press conference where he's not talking about a loss and an embarrassing loss because Wales have had some embarrassing losses in recent times, and he gets to sit there and get asked about winning a game. I'm really happy for him on a personal level because this is my thing about the Welsh players is these are guys who, when they were kids, dreamed of putting on a red jersey and playing for Wales in the Six Nations, and that dream has been a nightmare for the last 2, 3 years. And they must have gone to, some of them won't be able to sleep at night. Some of them will have questioned themselves. Some of them will have thought about quitting. I wouldn't blame them if some of those players thought about quitting. And for them to get the win, I really hope they enjoyed it. I really hope they enjoyed it and they got a lot of pats on the back. And I'm happy for the players more than I am for anything else. And finally, there was rumours a year ago that Daft Jenkins was in negotiations to sign for the Scarlets. Daft Jenkins, if you sign for the Scarlets, I will give you a lift to training every day myself. Like, you're amazing. I love this guy. If he signed for the Scarlets, we would win the URC. I think he's awesome. So please, 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 please sign for the Scarlets. Like I said, shout out Steve Tandy. He has turned it around. You have to credit him because it was bad to begin with. The criticism was fair, but he's turned it around. And from an Italy point of view, I think they should be disappointed. I think they were way too conservative to start out with. I think they tried to play a kicking game. I think they thought it was going to be an arm wrestle, and they were like, "We'll kick the threes and stuff." Garbisi missed that first kick it goal for the three, and I think Italy's attack is very meh, very, very, very average attack, and I think they need to go back to the drawing board with their attack, honestly. But from a Welsh point of view, I'm not surprised that it happens. We have gotten better, and our next two games are Barbarians and Fiji, winnable, winnable rugby matches. So we could go from where we were to 3 wins on the bounce. After that, we've got Argentina away, who knows, and then Springboks away, probably going to lose that. But there's a chance for momentum there. So yeah. It's a shame that Dave Redden turned up on the BBC and shat all over it after the game finished. But, apart from that, a happy day for being a Wales fan.
Yeah, Dave Redden's the WRU chief, isn't he?
Performance director. But
Oh,
he's recently had someone else appointed who is I can't remember the name of the role, but basically the rugby expert. It's basically that Dave Redden doesn't know anything about rugby person, so we need to appoint this guy to help him.
I do think that, like, from a Welsh perspective, like, you can't help but feel, well, from a mutual looking at the game, like, Ethan, I'm sure you were the same. It was really nice to see the Principality, like, set alight again.
yeah.
As soon as, like, the first try came, it was when the commentators was like, we haven't heard noise like this in the Principality for a long, long time. And it was just the pure, unadulterated joy from everyone that came with every single try. And then when Wales all like sort of jogged off the pitch, it was just sort of like, you know, push through that last bit as well. Like we were speaking like I feel like it's been a long time coming for this win as well in the Six Nations. Well, 3 years of it. Um, I think it's just the beauty of this Six Nations is now that I think every team, like you can put it in a circle now of teams that have beaten teams. And when could a Six Nations, I can't remember the last Six Nations where that's actually happened, to be honest with you. Not with like in what the last 6 years anyway. There's always been a team that loses at least like all of their games, like mainly in the Six Nations. So I think Wales really proving the fact that like whilst they've got the wooden spoon, they put on a performance against one of the rising talents in the Six Nations as well. One of the dark horses in terms of they can win any game that they really put themselves into.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Ethan, closing thoughts on Italy's Six Nations, Ethan.
Think one that they've got their best result, well, tied best result, but really probably the better of their two. Because I can't remember who they beat last. Well, it probably was Scotland and Wales they beat last time. If that was, oh no, it's Scotland. I'm being stupid. Yeah. But the fact that they've beaten England, sure they didn't beat Wales, but the fact that they've managed to take one of those scalps that, like us, they only just need to beat New Zealand. That for the Italian mentality, that's incredible. Thinking like what, 4 years ago, they hadn't beat England, they hadn't beaten Australia. There's probably a few, maybe a few more on that list, or maybe not. But
It's just New Zealand who they haven't beaten now.
yeah, so and now with more shots at New Zealand and that confidence, they can definitely build on that against New Zealand. They could build on it against South Africa, build against Argentina, Australia. That, yeah, I think they've only really got to go upwards.
Yeah, I think so. I think you summed it up perfectly where you said they've entered that Scotland bracket now of they can knock someone good over, but then can they back it up? Um, I think Casado has done a great job. All right, this is something that someone asked me. Actually, no, I'm going to leave that for the end of the podcast because we're not doing predictions. But it's time for us now to talk about uh, Ireland versus Scotland. But before we do, if you're listening on audio, please consider subscribing to whatever platform that you're listening on. Leave a 5-star rating. If you're on Spotify, leave a comment. And if you're really enjoying what you're listening to, share a link with a friend and say, hey, this is cool. You should check it out. And then they listen to it as well because audio is really hard to grow. So any help that you provide us in that scenario is much appreciated in advance. Cheers. All right, Scotland versus Ireland, lads. All right, tradition on the show is that the winner talks first. Adam, to give us your thoughts on this one.
I think that's like I think I've said this every week. Like going into games, I think that's our best performance, the Six Nations. I think we were relatively ruthless. This was probably the highest that we've played in terms of like considering a couple of years ago and we were like fairly unstoppable. This was one of those games that I thought like we went into this like pretty well. We had a couple of moments where there was just like well yeah Jamie Osborne scored in the second minute and I just thought right here we go. I thought Scotland did a really good reply with Darcy Graham, but then after that I don't feel like Scotland actually had any type of real stronghold in the game. Like I felt like Ireland were so technically set up that their attack, like we said this about Ireland during the Six Nations, is their attack being fairly one-dimensional. I thought like our attack was the best it has been the Six Nations against Scotland. Considering like we were saying about how one-dimensional it was against Wales and Italy, not so much against England, but this like it was like a different game that we were playing. Dan Sheehan ran back. I think it was a mark called by Scotland. Jan Sheehan proceeded to run back on the wing, catch the ball, and proceeded to run back along the other wing. Like we had all of our best players playing their best rugby. Tag Byrne played one of his best games this Six Nations. There was a joke going around. I saw online that he was going around with one of his babies, like with his newborn baby, and it said like, but knowing him, he probably stole that from Scotland too. Like he was absolutely incredible. Stuart McCluskey, um, player that he's my player.
Joint top of the Six Nations for try assists.
Yeah, he's like he did another NFL. He did two NFL style passes this one. I'm really worried that he might go to the NFL international stage and try it as quarterback. He might as well. Rob Balakoon getting rising player of the Six Nations, and then he's previously to say in the interview, "I'm 28 years of age. I wasn't expecting this to be honest with you, but it. I felt like as an Ireland fan, I was saying this like on all the group chats. I felt like this was the perfect way to finish it. I wasn't expecting the Six Nations anyway. It's the perfect way of finishing it with the Triple Crown. Five trophies in 5 years for Andy Farrell, but I would say that this is probably the most important Six Nations Andy Farrell's had in his tenure, considering the amount of rotation that he's had to do from injuries and stuff like that. Tom O'Toole had a very good game at loose head. I thought he had a very particularly good game in the scrum as well. There was a couple of scrums where he was winning him, and fair play to him. He's not normally a loose head prop. Darren Murray, 6'7", caught it second row coming off the bench, was pretty good as well. He got a couple of charge downs. He's really tall, so I can imagine that's like quite an asset to his game. But I thought there was not really a fault to Ireland's game. I thought we relatively nullified any type of attacking threat Scotland had. And when we were found out, it was only in bits where we were like well in the lead. Um, but saying that as an Ireland fan, and I'm sure Ethan, you'll probably mention this yourself, I thought Scotland would have had more to them. I thought there would have been a bit more. The passes weren't quite sticking. There was a pass. It was the Tommy O'Brien try at the last bit where I think it might have been Russell's flung it out and it just like hit off the head. And it was like, it kind of summed up Scotland's performance in that sense of that that could have happened at any point in the game. But yeah, as an Ireland fan, I'm happy. I thought that was our best performance. I think there's a lot more positives now to take out of the Six Nations than asking at the very start of the Six Nations. Looking at the squad to now, I see a lot more positives in this Ireland squad now than I did at the very start.
Ethan, where did it go wrong?
It's one of those ones that I felt the way Scotland played, it reminded me more of the how we played against Wales, in the sense that, there's a lot of handling errors. They were trying to force things that just weren't working. Um, our defense wasn't really good because I felt basically Ireland got the ball, they would score. That there's quite a few, similar to the Edinburgh game, that several just run-ins, and you're kind of like, oh wow. It's not looking good for Lee Radford because he was basically in like the pre-match talks. He was like, "Oh, well, this is paraphrasing. Um, oh, I've never lost to Ireland. I don't really think about it. I'm not affected by the whole quote unquote mentality thing about Ireland." And
Oh
yeah,
dear.
his defense there didn't really look great. They're too narrow, and it was one of those ones that everyone talks about Scotland. Oh, whenever it comes to Scotland versus Ireland, it's always the physicality that, yeah, I think Scotland, we didn't have Scott Cummings and we didn't have Greg
That's
O'Brien.
worrying because Snow Cummings is a big shout, but Ireland's physicality has been very average for the whole Six Nations up until now, until they
Yeah.
play Scotland and suddenly they look like juggernauts.
Yeah. And I don't think it's a mentality issue. I think it's more, maybe not for Scotland. I think for Ireland, it might be a positive mentality issue, being like, oh, we've beaten Scotland. We know them pretty much inside out, whether it's at club level or internationally. And it's like, it's just muscle memory at this point. And that's the frustrating thing is for the last, this was game 12, is that right? For Ireland beating Scotland in a row.
I think this is
Yeah.
our, yeah, 12th,
Yeah,
13th in a row, yeah, something like that, yeah.
yeah. And I felt this is probably one of the better performances that excluding, like the handling errors and the poor defense and things, that, like Scotland did look more up for it. They worked hard for their tries, but that's the thing. They didn't make Ireland work hard for theirs. And I think the score flattered Ireland in a way towards the end with that sort of like poor defending. Because it was quite a close game for quite a lot of it. Sure, Scotland were chasing, but what was it? Was it 21-25 or something at one point, or 19-25? Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it was, yeah. Like
Yeah,
it was close in parts.
yeah. And then Ireland scored like two or three more tries after that, and the game was done. And from times like, yeah, going back to the whole 12 game rule, I feel like we're still playing the same game plan. Sure, we were better at it than we had been before, but something needs to be done differently. As much as I want to avoid talking about the times and sort of,
Oh, he's frozen.
Townsend's got him. He
Yeah,
was speaking about
he's been
Townsend and
taken out.
Townsend's
He's
got
been taken out by the SIU sniper, the emphasizing Gregor Townsend.
yeah,
Ethan, are you there? Are you with
yeah, yeah,
us?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
cut
My
out.
internet, yeah, my
yeah,
internet's been a bit,
Townsend is near. I thought Townsend got to you, Ethan. Oh, I got
yeah.
worried.
So you were saying
It's
you
because of his head. Like it blends in with the wall. He could be anywhere.
So he's
Oh no.
are you saying that Townsend's because here's the thing because this I was going to ask you about this because we've been on the roller coaster with Scotland this Six Nations in terms of what we were saying,
Yeah.
what the conversation was after the Italy game, and then what the conversation was after the England game, and then after the Wales game, no one was more of the conversation was about Wales than about Scotland, and then after the France game, we were having a certain conversation, and then after the Ireland game, we're back having the conversation that we were having after the Italy game. So we started we started here, and we went here, and we went here, and then now we're back down here,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like purgatory. I'm going to use the word. It's Scottish rugby purgatory.
Yeah. I think I'm still on the I think he should go, but I think he's done just enough this season to get like justify him staying over the summer. I'd probably just say the summer because he's got stuff to build on. That the England game, brilliant. Look completely comfortable. Wales game, good to get in a quote unquote ugly win, especially with Scotland, that they were able to dig deep and claw it back, which we've seen more in this Ireland game. Because they need to experience that and hope for because that if any game would be like that for
Oh, they've got
pull
him
that
again.
if they could do it. Oh, is my internet
Are you back?
just
Is it criticize? Is it criticizing
It's criticizing
Townsend?
Scotland. Yeah, it's criticizing Townsend to sort of help out Ethan's
he'll be
point and
full
to sort
time?
of, oops,
Oops, sorry.
Carry on, Adam.
sorry, to sort of make a positive out of Scotland in the Six Nations is that they
Mm.
almost remind me of France before Dupont, like France mid 2010s of they they never they could win it if they find two really good exceptional players. But it was one of those where they're so unpredictable and they could be almost like they could make it like a French thing and be turn it into a Scottish thing. It's sort of like that feeling to it. But I do feel like, as we sort of said for Wales and Ireland, that well, consider yourselves that like at least you aren't in that England camp where there's a lot more positives than there are negatives, and there's a lot riding on it. I feel like the occasion as well for those type of players. I feel like with Ireland, you had a lot of Ulster, you had well, no, sorry, a lot of Leinster players and a lot of Munster players that would have played in big huge games like that. You'd have had the same with Glasgow in the URC. However, I feel like test level, like you saw it, like you always see it with Ireland when they play against New Zealand, and when we look like we're going to absolutely crap ourselves. But I feel like it's like a little bit more of a mentality thing than we think to try and push on for that because it did seem like the passes didn't quite stick, and then it was an immediate head look down, and it's sort of like similar to how Finn Russell's career has sort of been. If something doesn't work out for Finn Russell, he could be the greatest player in the world, but if that thing doesn't stick, he could look pretty average. But it's that head loss, it's the confidence as well. But I can see more positives for Scotland. Ethan, as you said, I do think I agree with you. I think it's flattered Ireland the scoreline towards the end because we mainly scored off Scotland errors and it was mainly run-ins. So yeah, I find like there's quite a lot of positives for Scotland in this tournament as a whole as well as yesterday.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think broadly so, but go on, Ethan.
fact that as we all started, you know, the Italy game, we're all thinking, geez, oh, how could it get any lower? And then, we came into the last week looking at possibly a triple crown and the even more lower percentage chance of a possible title win. I think does show that there has been work, there have been good changes and stuff to build on. It's just whether they can keep that positive momentum going. Like the rate of that positive change that, under times and it's like, I don't know, that sort of it's like Bank of Scotland interest rates. It's incredibly low. It's like 0.03 or whatever. It's still positive, but wherever you go, I'm not going to make it sound like I'm sponsored by any banks here. Nondescript, but
Great analogy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, nondescript bank, 7% interest. If you change then, it's just whether do we stick and say, oh, the interest rates are actually up, or do you just switch provider?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great
Incredible,
analogy. I'm going to remember
incredible.
that.
This is a
Um,
great analogy.
uh, Adam, coming to you. This is this last talking point of the show. I put it to you that with Ireland for the Six Nations, everybody has been proved right. Everybody who said that Andy Farrell needs to change up selection, what he's picking isn't working, all the problems, blah blah blah, they've been proved right. But also Andy Farrell has been proved right because check the results. Another triple crown in the bag, 4 wins out of 5. He has come up with a positive win record yet again. So what have we learned about Ireland?
I I see this is a very good point. And I was looking at how he used his subs, and this is something that I was very confused about this entire tournament is how he uses his subs. Um Craig Casey was an unused sub. And I feel like, I there's still a lot of things that I'm thinking is quite interesting in the fact that Gibson Park has had such an exceptional tournament. He's like, but he's getting older. It's getting to a point where the likes of Lowe, Aki, and Gibson Park, I don't know why the contracts have been organized like this. They're all running out the year before the World
They've all
Cup.
been linked with moves away, but I reckon it's all bollocks because it's all been like CVs have been circulated in the Prem in the top 14. Like, no, they're not going anywhere. It's just the
But
agents like making a bit of noise.
I do feel like there is a little bit I do feel like there's a little bit of truth to it though. I do feel like there is a little bit of truth. The likes of Bundy, he came off the bench, yes, but like you see all the other centers and what we have in our arsenal, like in Ireland as well. The same as James Lowe is sort of injury prone now. Gibson Park is the only one that I would really like would like keep on because of how, you know, class is permanent, form is temporary. He's shown his class. You know what I mean? It's the same as Bundy and the same as Lowe. Like they can prove me wrong at the end of the season. It normally happens that way. But I do feel like Andy Farrell's got this sort of like what 5 trophies in 5 years. He's got this like machine to work. And I'm a big like as you can tell from every pod Hugh that we've ever done, even in the old pod that you used to do, I spoke about how Ireland need to rotate. We were forced to rotate we've seen massive benefits. We've seen some people like come out to be players that should be in the starting team. Jamie Osborne is a threat at 15. I know it's a second Six Nations in a way playing 15. And we have to remember that this is a team without the likes of Mac Hansen, Hugo Keenan, all
I'd
of the
say
Leinster
forget them.
props.
I'd say forget them. I'm so like Mac Hansen and Hugo Keenan have been two of the main beneficiaries of Ireland's, in my personal opinion, no one else's. In my personal opinion, Ireland's ridiculous resting of internationals policy that is clearly doesn't yield
No,
any benefits, in
yeah.
my opinion. And Hugo Keenan and Matt Hansen have been rested as much as any rugby player in the world. And guess what? They're both crocked all of the time. So I
Yeah.
would say forget him. It's the time of Jamie Osborne and Rob Balakoon.
Yeah,
We
well, Rob Balakoon. I've been waiting. It's Stuart McCloskey and Rob Balakoon. I've been waiting for this moment for years. As an Ulster fan, this has been a great Six Nations. We've had, Roy Sutherland winning it for Scotland, former Ulster man, of course, for 15 games. But it's one of those that Stuart McCloskey having one of the best Six Nations, like he was one of the outstanding Six Nations centers. Brilliant. Robert Balakoon, unbelievable. But like this is stuff that we all know as Ulster fans, and we're finally getting validation from other provinces going like, oh, they are class, aren't they? Like, yes. It's almost like when you pick an Ulster to player, like as an Ulster fan, we haven't had many. Like last year, we didn't have any Ulster players in the Six Nations. And we had a pretty Six Nations. We still have a Triple Crown, but this Triple Crown, I don't know. I think it's more of a bias thing to me. It feels like more. I felt like there was more to that. Balakoon, Tommy O'Brien. I think our back three was exceptional. On the weekend, like it was really, really rocking well. I think Osborne is such a threat at 15. I know David on the Interpro show would say that he would like him to play at 12, but I just thought he was exceptional. I thought even Kieran Frawley, when he came off the bench, I was like, this is a man that's, was down the pecking order. He's about to move to Connacht. He's going to be a really good signing for Connacht. And that's me going back on myself from a couple of weeks ago saying that he might not set the world alight at Connacht. He might do with the performances he's been putting in this Six Nations. There's a lot of players sticking their hand up. I'm thinking like even the ones that you would have as nailed down starters. James Ryan's found the form that he needs to pick for Ireland as well. Van der Fleer played a really good game. Jack Conan has been Mr. Consistent. I think that there's been a lot. Jack Crowley, I think I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say about the debate at 10. I'm not gonna say it. But Jack Crowley has played a really good 10. It's his place kicking that needs worked on. I just think that there's way more positives in this Ireland setup. Tell me that a year ago, this time a year ago, I'd be like, oh, maybe we're on a January trajectory. But we're going into this nation's whatever with a clear drive and a clear focus and hopefully more rotation. We're building towards this World Cup. We haven't done the stupid thing and won a Grand Slam or Six Nations before it. I don't think we've quite peaked. I feel like we're building. I feel like Andy Farrell's building, and that's the hope that I have as an Irish fan right now.
Hope springs eternal. Hope springs eternal. Okay, final question. This is something that someone asked me today, and I do not have an answer for them, so I need your help. Which head coach has done the best job this Six Nations?
Was that which coach? Sorry, my internet
Yeah,
stuttered.
which head coach has done the best job this Six Nations?
Oh, the Italian head coach.
2 wins from 5. Lost to Wales on the last day.
But a win against like a historic win against England and quite a good win against Scotland, considering the Scottish form that was brought into that Six Nations. I feel like that Welsh one was, as Ethan put it, like perfectly, as fatigue. I do think that England one was their like push, but I don't think anyone would have predicted that sort of England win at that Italian win at the very start. And I feel like their progression, and I think Parise was interviewed, And they said like the beauty about Parise was that he was a good player in a very poor Italian team. Menoncello is a exceptionally good player as well, but also you can point out a lot of those players. Ferrari had a really good tournament. Their scrum was fairly unstoppable as well during the Six Nations. They put us to the sword as well. They had a really good results. Like they denied us the bonus point was staying within a score of us as well. I would argue the Italian coach.
Ethan, thoughts?
So I feel like for the best coach of this Six Nations, I'd really like Borthwick because he's basically been in free fall. Gatier, yeah, he won the overall title, but how much, you could just not turn up and France are just self-drive at this point. He didn't really need to do too much, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Um, and then you've got Farrell, yeah, who's done a good job having to, with all the injury crisis that Ireland's had, I think he's done a good job there in being able to stay afloat. Sure, some of those games were a bit touch and go, like the Ireland game and the Wales game. But the fact, he blew us out of the water, he blew England out of the water after a pretty miserable start against France. And then similar in the sense of like miserable start, an ugly win, and two really good wins, beating the team that actually won the overall tournament, but then flopped against Ireland. Sada, again, as you're saying, that historic win against England and really launching the springboard for future Italy. But I'd probably go Tandy in the sense that he's had to basically start from the bottom. And each game, Wales got progressively better. And it was really that Scotland game changed it around that Wales looked like a team that could win. So yeah, I'd probably go Tandy in the sense of sure he only got one win, but it's you could see the difference from week one and week six.
I like both of your answers. I think you've both given great answers, and I've heard other people give the same justifications. Like you say, because Casares, if you look at where Italy were before he took over to where they are now, I think it's 5 wins and a draw in their last 15 Six Nations games, which is for Italy a massive step forward. And even you look at some of the losses, the improvement is clear to see. I agree with you, Ethan, that Tandy has taken Wales from rock bottom to not rock bottom anymore, and they have gotten better. And I think he deserves credit for that. I agree with you. Rule out Borthwick, forget it. Bye. Um, I don't think that maybe Galtier deserves tons of credit for winning the Six Nations in the manner that he did with the squad that he's got. How much is he adding upon the talents that he's got? It's debatable. The Scotland loss was poor, but having to beat England in that manner, it shouldn't have come down to what it did. Um, Townsend, I just don't feel I can say that Townsend's done the best job. Controversially, and people can shoot me down in the comments for this if they want, I feel like Franco Smith has done as much for the Scotland team as Townsend has done in terms of what he's done with Glasgow and the foundations that he's laid for that. Um, but I'm almost minded to give it to Farrell, and that sounds mad, but it's 4 wins out of 5. He's rotated his selection, and he would argue he's done it at exactly the right point. He's done it at exactly the inflection point of when, the old guard wasn't doing the job anymore and it was time to bring the new guys in. And he's protected his win-loss ratio is still massively in the positive. And
Yeah.
a bit like Tandy as well, have Ireland gotten better week on week? Arguably,
Yeah.
maybe the Wales game was a bit of was that better than the England game? Probably not, but I don't know. So we've got 3 answers. I think so. Someone asked me this today, and I thought it was a great question, and I don't know. So if you've made it all the way to this point in the podcast, let us know in the comments down below which head coach has done the best job this Six Nations, because I think it's a really hard question to answer.
Yeah, I would agree with like the Farrell comment. Like I do think there's a lot of method in his madness, and there is a reason why he is supposedly getting offered a lot of money to go to Saracens, which they've denied. But I feel like that denial has came with we definitely have an he's a valued member of the community. There is a reason why he's a very good coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, no predictions this week because we've reached the end of arguably the greatest Guinness Men's Six Nations of all time. So that just leaves me to say thank you very much to Irish Adam and Scottish Ethan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been the Six Nations Rewind, aka the Celtic Conspiracy Podcast. England fans, you were not welcome and you never will be. And that just leaves me to say thank you very much for watching. And I hope that everybody's team wins. Cheers.